Okay, so in the previous video we talked about rotations, and all of those rules applied to situations where you rotate about the origin. Now what I want to do are a couple of examples where you're rotating about a point instead of the origin. Now this one, it seems like a lot of work, and it seems sort of involved, but once you realize what's happening, it's not that difficult. It's a lot of writing and a lot of putting things together. So the first thing that you need to do in order to do this rotation is you want to take the point that you're rotating about and you want to subtract it off of these points. So let's start by subtracting this point from all three of these points. So we're going to subtract that point from these points, okay? So you're going to take 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 minus a negative 2, so 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. 3 minus a negative, so 3 plus 2 is 5. And then 4 minus 2 is 2. And then 0 minus a negative, so 0 plus 2 is 2. Once you do that, then, once you subtract off the point that you're rotating about, you come back to these rules and figure it out. So in this case, we're rotating counterclockwise 90 degrees. So 90 degrees counterclockwise. What we're going to do is we're going to take these points that we just subtracted and we're going to flip them. Y becomes X and X becomes Y. And then for counterclockwise, what you do is you change the sign on the first one. Okay, so we're doing counterclockwise 90 degrees. So this point then, we flip it and change the sign. So change the sign on the 2, that becomes negative 2, 0. We flip it and change the sign on the Y, so that becomes negative 5, 0. We flip it and change the sign on the Y, so that becomes negative 2, 2. And now, finally, if you want to get your A prime, B prime, C prime, we're going to take that point that we subtracted off, and we're going to add it back to these transformed images. So we're going to take 2, negative 2, and we're going to add it to each of these. And that's going to give us our transformed image. So negative 2 plus 2 is 0. 0 plus a minus, so 0 minus 2 is negative 2. That is our A prime. Our B prime is negative 5 plus 2, which is negative 3. 0 plus a minus, so 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And then our C prime is going to be negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. 2 plus a negative, so 2 minus 2 is 0. So your transformed image is at these 3 points. 0, negative 2 is right there. That's your A prime. B prime is at negative 3, negative 2. So right here. And then your C prime is at the origin, 0, 0. So C prime is right there. And this is your new image. All right, if you want to compare it to the old one, we can plot those points. 2 zeros right there. That's A. B is at 2, 3 right here. And then C is at 4, 0. So this was our original image, and we rotated it 90 degrees counterclockwise about the point negative 2, or 2, negative 2. All right. So take a second and pause the video. Go over this, what I did. All you're doing, you're taking your original points, you're subtracting off the point that you're rotating about, and getting a new line of points. Then you're going to do the rotation based on these rules, all right? And then you're going to add that point back on to get your transformed images. Okay, so pause the video, see if you can get it, and then come back and we'll see how you did. Okay, so first thing we got to do, take the point we're rotating about and subtract it off. So negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. All right, so we're going to subtract these. So 4 minus a minus is plus, so 4 plus 1 is 5. Negative 1 minus a minus, that's plus. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 1 minus a negative 1, that's negative 1 plus 1, so that's 0. 1 minus a negative, so that's plus, so this is 2. And then we've got 3 minus a minus, so that's plus. 3 plus 1 is 4. Now we're doing clockwise around that point. So clockwise, and we're going to assume that it's 90 degrees. I didn't put that on there, but I'm pretty sure it's 90 degrees. So 90 degrees clockwise, we flip-flop the point, change the sign on the second point. All right, so 0 comes first. We change the sign on the net 5. That's negative 5. 0, 0, you can't really change the sign on it, so it's just going to stay the same. Here we go. We're going to flip the 4, make it come first, change the sign on the X, and make it come second. All right? So there's our rotated. Now we've got to add that point back on. So we're going to take negative 1, and add it back to these 3 points. So we add them together. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So that's our X prime. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Our Y prime, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. And then our Z prime, 4 minus 1 is 3. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. So there's our transformed image. If we wanted to plot those, negative 1 and 6 is down here. This is our X prime. Negative 1 right here. That's Y prime. And then over 3, down 3 right here is our Z prime. So this is our transformed image. Now if you want to compare that to the original image, we can plot the original points. Over 4, down 1. That's X. Negative 1, there's Y. And then over 1, up 3 is right here. And here is our original image. X, Y, Z. We rotated clockwise around the point, negative 1, 90 degrees. Okay? So if you have any questions about that, bring it to class.